Hello, welcome to a live recording of the Stop Shooting All Over Yourself podcast. I have not been live in such a long time, so I do need to actually check to make sure that it's actually showing up in the various places that we expect it to show up in, because otherwise I'm just going live for nothing, and then nobody's going to hear anything. So, welcome. I jumped on a little bit early so that I could just make sure that everything is running the way it should, and then we will hop right in and start talking about stop shooting all over yourself and being live and all of the fun things. Okay, I'm live in an online event right now. Magical. Okay, so perfect. I'm going to share that to my personal profile. La, 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 la. Okay, that's posted. Yay, that's done. So we know that that's working. The other one that I need to check on is to see, is it live in LinkedIn? This is my first LinkedIn live, which is crazy. I'm a big fan of going live. So being live, oh, great. I'm live on LinkedIn. Now, can you hear me? Great. Oh, and it's almost like live. Perfect. Okay. So great. Looks like I'm live everywhere I'm supposed to be. I have chat open. Okay, fabulous. So welcome to a live recording of the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast. Hello, Facebook user. Why are you Facebook user? You should be the name of the person. Why is that? Okay, so I apologize that I can't see people's names. I can see, hi friend, hello, so good to see you. All right, this is not something I was expecting because we should be in the mode that lets people see all the things. So thank you for alerting me to that. But I'm glad that I'm live. So at least there's that. We'll troubleshoot anything that we need to troubleshoot as we go between now and the next time. So let's talk. All right. Let me see. Oh, wow. Look at that. Okay. Pause. I'm muted. So great. Okay, Christy, I can see you. I can't tell where you are, where I am seeing you, but fabulous. Apparently captions are great. So that's fabulous. Okay. All right. We're just going to move right along since clearly this is working and I got to find my live stream. Okay. Hey, Christy. All right. So we are going to be troubleshooting this next time round. I found a new piece of software called Melon, which is actually, it's an app that is connected to Streamlabs, which is what I was using before. And because the two are connected, I thought, you know what? I kind of want to see how it works. Because it's like a straight to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook page, like you have the whole nine. It'll allow you to live stream to all of those places. And it's kind of like Be Live, kind of like, oh my God, Social Live. And then there were a couple of others that were like that, where it's done through your browser. So I wanted to test it out just to see if it was a little bit easier than using Streamlabs. So far, it is actually a lot easier to use, but I am having the same challenge that we did with Streamlabs and Be Live, which is not being able to see who the people are who are commenting. But we'll troubleshoot that as we go. So I decided to go back to doing the Stop Shitting All Over Yourselves live because the truth is I really actually enjoy the live format more. It energizes me a little bit better, and I really struggle with doing like recordings by myself. It just, I keep second guessing, I keep pausing and stopping and starting again, and I find that when I do it live, it's just kind of like we do it once and it's done, and the energy is great and everybody's happy with how the energy goes. So that's sort of the direction that I wanted to go in. So I am attempting this again. Fortuitously, between the last time that I went live and this time that I went live, now I can go live on LinkedIn. So this is my first LinkedIn live, which is very exciting. So for everyone who has been with me listening to the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast for our last 49 episodes, I thank you so much for being a listener. And especially for those of you who gave me the feedback about how much you loved the live version. That was amazing. So invite your friends, bring back the old crew who used to be here. Let them know we are live right now. So today we're going to be talking about where did it go? Where are we going? We're going to be talking about something as soon as I can get it up. Okay. We're going to be talking about the idea of the word should and why the problem exists, like why I think the problem exists and how we can mitigate it. I have a really not pleasant relationship with the word should. It impacted me in a number of negative ways, and it's taken me a while to sort of be able to articulate why I think this word is so insidious. And so as I am moving into this great, very exciting space in this new year, which is coming up, I wanted to use this as an opportunity to sort of reset and reacclimate everybody to this podcast and talk a little bit about why it exists and how it can help you. All right. So the way that this works is that I basically go when I'm recording the podcast. I don't actually look at the screen. I don't look at the comments. I kind of just go read my podcast notes, and then I'm done. When I'm done with the podcast, I will come back to the screen and I will take a look at the comments that you had, the conversations that you were having, and I will chime in and we'll have a conversation of our own. I'm going to try to keep my goal is to try to learn how to keep these short. That's my challenge to myself. I have yet to actually achieve that goal, but you know what? It is a worthy goal. It is a worthy goal. So please talk amongst yourselves while I am doing this. Hello. Yeah, don't tag too many people, Christy. I don't want you to end up in the ye old dreaded Facebook jail. But for any of the people who were, the old crew who used to be on the lives, who I know is missing it, I know that they will be very happy to see this pop up. They didn't know I was going to be doing this, so it's sort of like I just jumped up and I'm like, "Hello, I'm here." Not advisable if you're trying to build an audience, but perfectly advisable if you're simply doing the thing and knowing that eventually the audience will come. If you build it, they will come. All right, so I'm going to go dive in while people join us. Okay. Yes, that's why I'm doing this on LinkedIn, on YouTube, also on Facebook, but it's also being recorded. And then this is going to be edited and turned into episode 49 of the podcast. Episode 48 comes out next week, and then we're just recording them live and they get published later on. You just get to be a part of the publication process. Okay, I'm going in. Ready? Gerald, who is my editor? Here we go. Hello, and welcome to the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast, the place where you come to stop feeling like shit about your business and your life. One of the biggest things that I don't like the way that came out. It came out sounding so obnoxious. Let's try that again. Okay. All right. Hello. Welcome to the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast, where we are today going to talk about the word should and how it is a word we use all the time, but it constantly keeps us down. I don't like the word should. Let's just start with that. I don't like the word should, but I wasn't always like this. I'd actually used the word constantly, frequently even. It's a big word, the word should. It's full of meaning. And when I say the word should, it usually means that I know what the right way is to do something. And I'm dictating to myself or others to remind us all about the things that we aren't doing that we should be doing. It's a word that is loaded with judgment and righteousness. And even when it's used with the best of intentions, rarely has it ever been used to reinforce somebody's self-esteem or boost someone's confidence. So why do we keep using it on ourselves and with others? And what can we do instead? Today's podcast, we're going to talk all about that. Why do we use it? Why does it have such an impact on us? How does it keep us down? And what are our alternatives to using this dreaded word should? So let's start with talking about shitting myself. Okay, so we'll start with shitting myself before I talk about shitting on other people. This word pops up surprisingly often in my day-to-day. It's everywhere. And I can guarantee that if you start paying attention to how much you use it, I think that you'll find the results surprising and illuminating. In the before times, I used to use the word liberally. Honestly, I barely noticed when it came out of my mouth because it popped up so much. Like I didn't notice when it came out of my mouth, in my mind, it was constantly there. And I can't remember exactly why I started to pay attention to using the word. I know that it was around 2018, and I had just returned to my mindfulness and meditation practices. I'd go out to the cemetery and sit and meditate for an hour, and I was becoming super aware of the things that triggered my anxiety. At some point, I know there was an event that made me look at the word should specifically. Like I was like, all right, I need to be looking at this word, but whatever it is lost to the annals of time now, so I don't actually remember. But I do know that when I started to become more mindful about how I was talking to myself a few years ago, I noticed that every day I was telling myself stories like, I should go live more so that I can sell more courses, products, or whatever it was that I was selling at the time. I should work on my website, make the graphics, fix the text, take care of the landing page, things like that. I should go to the gym and work out lest I die. I should call somebody, right? Like your sister, your brother, your friend, whoever. I should be calling or responding to somebody for something. My day was full of things that I should be doing. And I discovered that sometimes, even when I was doing something that I should be doing, I was in my mind doubting myself and thinking that I should be doing something else. Like my mind would be halfway on something else, wondering if that's what I should be doing, or if maybe I should do that next, or I need to do this faster so that I can get to that next thing. I was constantly living in the future or in the I should have done this alternate universe. And several times a day, I also noticed myself getting a jolt of anxiety. Like I was just feeling anxious and unstable, not unstable, but insecure, a little bit, just a little bit uneasy, right? Uneasy. And every time I said or thought the word should, it would be like a pang, like a, bzz, like you get that feeling of anxiety that would come in. Now, here's the thing. When I said these things, I wasn't trying to make myself feel like shit. I was actually trying to motivate myself to take action, right? But instead, I just ended up making myself feel like I wasn't good enough being me. I wasn't choosing the right things to do. My prioritization was inadequate. And there were still so many things on my list that should be done. And there was still so much for me to do to be enough, which means that there's still more to do before I can rest, which means that I need to keep going, keep hustling, keep trudging along so that I could do all the things that I should be doing so I would be good enough to finally take a break and breathe. Going to take a quick pause here because I want to make sure that oh my god, it's blocking shoulding in the captions like it's a naughty word. I was wondering if that was going to happen. Oh my god, I was so wondering if that was going to happen, if it was going to love that so much. Oh my god, that is the best ever. Okay, fabulous. Sometimes you just got to jump in with what works for you while you have the spoons. Absolutely. Okay, just wanted to make sure I was still live. All right. So for me, it was about doing it so that I would be enough, because I never felt like I was good enough for anything or anyone or to even have space on this planet, right? So the shoulds were the list of things that I needed to do to earn my right to exist as far as I was concerned. Now, I would also should other people, right? But the reason why I would should other people was very different. It was about helping people. It was about people having problems and challenges, and I had the answer because I'd done the research and done the work, so I could give them that answer. So I wasn't just shitting all over myself. I was shitting on other people too. So people would ask me what I thought they should do in their business or what their next step should be. And as a coach, that's my job, right? That is my job, to give you guidance about the tools and resources and next steps to help you achieve. But the truth is what you should do next is entirely up to you and your goals. For example, someone once asked me in an event what they should do to find more customers. It was a small business that had just started out, like literally just started. And when I told them, they looked disappointed with my answer, right? Because I told them that they needed to go to local events and get to know people in their community and start to make one-to-one connections in, craft fairs and networking events and meetups and things like that. And they looked disappointed. So I asked them about it. I said, well, you seem surprised, or like that wasn't the answer that you were looking for. And they said, well, I already know so many people in my community. Like I've actually been around in this community forever. I know, like I really know a lot of people already, and that I really just need the people that I already know to know about my business, right? So the one-to-one didn't work as well for them. I mean, they were already doing it, but at that point they were looking for the next step, not that first step, the next step. So when they told me that now they're trying to reinforce their relationship with people, not create the relationships, I was like, oh, well, in that case, you need to do ads because you already have a huge network. You already built your warm market. Now you want them to know that you have started this business. This is a great opportunity for you to use ads. So knowing more information changed my answer, right? Because they already had the market penetration for who they were. They were reactivating people they already knew. But absent that information, this person, so let's say that person had never told me this, right? Then they would have gone on and done what I said, meeting people one-to-one, which is just re-meeting people that you've already met. And it wouldn't have worked as well for them as ads because they were already at a next level of their business where they were ready for ads. Even though they had just started, they were already ready for it. Was I wrong in telling them to go make the one-to-one connections? No, it's actually a very strong, powerful way to create an audience for your business. But for this particular person, it was the incorrect answer, right? But I said that they should do this. My answer changed within 5 minutes based off of one piece of information. I told them what they should do, and they were going to walk away with that information disappointed, and they would try what I said. But did I give them the best advice initially? I did not, because I didn't have all the information. The same thing is true for a lot of people. There are tried and true techniques that work, but somebody has to take that information, percolate it through your business and your life, and come up with a customized solution. That person can be a coach that you work with long term who knows you and what your goals are, or it can be you. Like you can do that percolating on your own. But it's rarely going to be a random meme on the internet or a doctrine determined by somebody years and years before you were born. That is something that's really important to keep in mind. Our choices are individual and they're based off of our life experience and our life framework, regardless of whether the choice is how to sell more broomsticks or whether to go on a second date with somebody. I realized at some point that when I told people what they should or should not be doing out of context, I was essentially robbing them of their own agency and assuming that I knew what was best for them more than they did. That doesn't mean that my guidance or experience is useless. It's actually not, and it has a lot of value and it can help transform your life. But you are the only person who can decide or who gets to decide how that happens and how that's going to work for you. And I don't get to judge you for that choice because it's not my life. Nobody gets to judge you for that choice because it's not my life. And that actually is my big problem with the word should, is the judgment aspect. Because the Oxford Dictionary defines should as it's used to indicate obligation, duty, or correctness, typically when criticizing someone's actions. Think about that. The word itself is defined as a criticism of action. So when you say something like, I really should clean my house, you're criticizing yourself. You're making a judgment that you're gross. You're making judgment on what is correct, a clean house, and ultimately you feel shame because you're not meeting your obligations as a human being to keep a clean house. You're disgusting, right? You might say something to yourself like, I should have said yes to that invitation to lunch, because it is correct and appropriate when someone invites you out to lunch to say yes, because it's rude to say no, regardless of whether you are chronically ill, whether you have other engagements, whether you've just spent an entire month working through some sort of trauma or building your business. It doesn't matter. If you have been invited somewhere, you should go. And if you don't go, you're being rude, right? You can judge yourself for that, for being rude. I should go to more work events. I should wake up earlier, right? We should ourselves so much about so many things. And none of them take our actual frameworks into consideration. If we're making a blanket statement that says when someone invites you to something or if there is a work event, you have to go, it is not taking your life framework into consideration at all. A really great example of this, which now that I think about this, this may actually have been the first time actually that I thought about the shoulding. And it was when Alex and I decided to turn our dining room into an office. So we had a dining table in there, as one does, because we had a colonial house that had a dining room attached to the kitchen, and the kitchen was an eat-in kitchen. So you know how it is. You have the dining room, the kitchen eat-in area, and then you have your official dining room, and then you have your TV room. In some of the even older Victorian houses, you have your formal dining and your formal drawing room, right? There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of rooms that we don't use anymore that exist, but that have a purpose, right? So all I could think of when we got rid of the dining table and put it in the kitchen and then put our desks in the room that was the dining room was I could think about my mom and how she like had our perfect little drawing room and whatever. And I thought to myself, my God, my mother would roll over in her grave if she knew that I was turning my dining room into an office. And I swear to God, I am not even messing with you here. I heard her voice in my mind. She came to me and said, I don't care whether your dining room is a dining room or a sex dungeon. I just want you to be happy. She said this to me, kid you not, into my brain, into my mind brain, right? And it really made me wonder because I knew this was her. I knew she came in and said that. I knew this was her. And I knew she was giving me permission to do this and that I could let go of that belief. But it made me wonder, who says that a dining room has to be a dining room? Do we even live in a world where that's necessary anymore? Maybe some people do, but do I? Do I live in a world where that's necessary anymore? Kind of like that formal living room from earlier. Who has that anymore, right? Now, when I was growing up in the old days, we had a formal drawing room and we even had the plastic, you had the plastic on the sofas to make sure that like it doesn't get all messy. That was when I was younger. We eventually got rid of the plastic, but because kids, it happens, right? But like we had a formal drawing room, and when people would come, we'd put the little tea service that would come out, and it was so formal, right? Like I don't remember the last time I did a tea service, right? it is not needed anymore. But sure, some houses still have them and use them, but for the most part, none of us have a special room that we use to entertain guests. In fact, I doubt most of us have guests often enough to where we need a formal drawing room for this purpose. These rooms had utility once, but they are no longer necessary. And the same is true for a lot of things that we should ourselves about. These ideas actually had value once. Nobody just came up with these ideas spontaneously and said, I have a really shitty idea that I'm going to make everybody do. These had value at one point, but do they have a place in your life anymore is the question, right? So when I was thinking about my dining room and how horrifying it was that it no longer served that purpose, I was criticizing myself on behalf of my mother, who told me in no uncertain terms not to use her as my scapegoat for my belief system. Because when we are doing those actions, when we should ourselves, we are criticizing ourselves and ultimately rejecting and shaming ourselves for not being who or what we think we're supposed to be, not doing what we think we're supposed to be doing. And this is where I had my like, woof, aha moment. Okay, huge. According to who exactly? Who decided that this is the way that it's supposed to be? That my house should have a formal dining room, that I should go to lunch or more work events? Who says that I should continue to talk to people who mistreat me just to keep the peace? The idea of what we should do had to come from somewhere, regardless of whether it was in business or in life. And it fascinated me. So I really started to pay attention about when I said I should do something. And I did a little more exploration in that moment to be like, oh, okay, like, all right, why am I shitting myself on this? Is this something that I want to be doing? So let's use the going out to an event as an example. Okay, this is so I get nervous. I have such bad social anxiety. I have things that I need to do to prepare myself. Now, there was an event that happened recently, the South Shore Conference for Women that I attended, and I wanted to wear my Maleficent horns. We were supposed to wear something purple. I had purple Maleficent horns. They're amazing. Some of you have already seen them, and I really wanted to wear them, but I was nervous because this was a professional event. It's not Comic-Con. No one's dressing up as Captain America or Eleven, right? And there's a way that we are expected to show up at professional events. There's clothing that's acceptable, makeup, behavior. I'm not sure there's like an actual book out there that says this is acceptable, but we all know all the rules. So like there's no book that says these are all the rules for what you have to do in your professional setting, but we all know what they are, right? And so do you. I know them, you know them. And they were imparted on us by our parents, our teachers, bosses, and colleagues over the years, sitcoms and dramas, social media, books on etiquette, countless articles on professional decorum. We all know how we're supposed to show up at conferences. But that's not how I wanted to show up, right? That's not who I am. I knew all the things that I should do, and I chose to do a handful of them. Like I brought my business cards because that made sense to me. I need those so that people can contact me. There's a reason why we have business cards and why we give them out, right? Not wearing horns, that made no sense to me, right? So, how that could impact anyone's absorption of the information that I was sharing on my panel was beyond me. Like, I don't see that it would be any impact. So, how would it hurt anything, right? So I showed up with my horns and my blue lipstick and my sparkles attached to my face. I wore jeans and a leather jacket and boots, and I looked as unprofessional as you could possibly look. And I'm not sure what I looked like. I mean, I saw pictures, but isn't like I'm not sure what I came off as, but I know that I felt amazing. I felt good inside. And as I walked in, I was terrified of rejection. I imagine people saying things like, who do they think they are wearing horns like that? So full of themselves. This isn't Comic Con. I imagine that people would think that I'm such an immature child and nobody would want to talk to me or hang out with me. I felt like because I didn't show up the way that I was told that I should, I was going to be rejected. And for many of us, that is our ultimate fear, is rejection by our chosen group. It's a very primal and visceral fear. Here's what actually happened. Okay, so that was all my fear, all my anxieties. And then what's actually happened was this. What actually happened was that I was embraced by everyone because it was an open and welcoming atmosphere where I felt accepted exactly as I was. And I saw others who were also rocking their own unique vibe, and it was amazing. People like Alina Lopez and Maria Milagros and Casey Kerr, they came in 100% themselves, ignoring what society told them they should do, just like I did. They rocked their sequin skirts, their purple hats, and they owned their uniqueness. Here's why this is important. When we're younger, we don't know right from wrong, good from bad, and someone has to teach us these things. The people who teach us how to behave in society were taught by their parents. Okay. So for most of us, that means that the person who raised you and taught you right from wrong and what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to behave in society, right? If you're 40 something like me, they were raised in the 50s by people who were born and raised in the early 1900s. Think about this. Okay, so your grandparents raised your parents who were born in the 1900s, raised your parents, and then they gave them what they believed was important, talking about Great Depression era stuff, the things that they learned was important. Then your parents who grew up in the 50s and the 60s, right? Then they came and they taught you what's supposed to be right. So in 1984, right, we're popping up. Think about this. In some cases, the people who were training your parents who then trained you were training you with philosophies and ideas that existed sometimes before electricity or cars had even come to their town. Okay, so they had no cars and no electricity, but the philosophies of society and how you were supposed to behave were being fully formed in that moment and that time, that were then taught down to their generation, their children, and then so on to us and so on. Um, Around that time, something really important to keep in mind is that around that exact same time, thinking 1900s, Depression era, a little bit that thing, they were also prescribing laudanum and vaginal stimulation until convulsions occur as a cure for hysteria for women. Okay. We've since learned that laudanum is bad and addictive and it's not a good choice for your mental health. And that not only was no one actually suffering from hysteria, the cure for it was a sneaky way for doctors to get their patients off. Okay. These are some things that we easily discarded as antiquated ideas. Psh, what are you talking about? We would never do that now. We would laugh at them, right? 4 years ago, we also laughed at the idea that the entire world's workforce could work remotely. If 4 years ago someone had said, I want to work remotely, they would have gotten laughed out of the office or said, yeah, you know what? People in hell want ice water too. That's real nice for you. It's not possible. Not at all. Well, no, can you believe that we used to think that? No, Sally, I can't believe that we used to think that it would be impossible to work from home. That could never happen. I fought for years for work from home allowances, but the environment that existed at the time simply did not allow for it. It was not allowed. And the reason that we continue to believe the things that we do is because in 1984, the social programming I was being offered were essentially ideas from the previous century that hadn't been debunked yet. Okay. And those ideas took root in my brain, okay, and became the way things are. The way things are. This is just how it is. Okay. And let me tell you, the thing that made me realize that there was no such thing as this is how it is, was when we found out that the dinosaurs were birds. If the dinosaurs could be birds and not reptiles, it blew my mind. What are you even saying? This is science. If we can revisit that, right, and rethink our ideas about something that was immutable as a fact, it was a fact, then how is it that we have such trouble with going back to our ideas that we came up with? So they're not even fact. These are just ideas that someone came up with that worked once. Maybe it still works, maybe it doesn't, but rarely do we challenge the infrastructure that tells us this is what we should be doing. Okay. I have behavioral even now in 2021, 20, let's try this again. Charles, sorry about that. Even now in 2022, I have behavioral systems that have their roots in pre-Civil War America, the Depression, the 50s, and so on. And so do you. Here are some of the unequivocal truths, absolutely unequivocal truths, right, that I believed almost all of my life. Okay. 1, you have to be tall, thin, and beautiful to get ahead in the world. I'm ugly with big teeth and I'm not blonde, so I'm going to suffer. If I'm not married before I'm 25, I'll be a spinster because it means that no one wants me. People have to work in the office and show up on time, leave on time, work 8 hours a day. If you want to get ahead, do the job you want, work overtime. You don't have to get paid for it, but you have to show up and over deliver, work for free, essentially, do the extra work for free so that you can get ahead in the world. Don't toot your own horn. Oh my God, do not highlight your accomplishments. Let them speak for themselves. Don't brag. Not good. Nobody likes a braggart. Be seen, not heard. Don't distract people with what you're wearing, saying, your makeup, your skirt, your clothes, your cleavage. Watch out. You are very distracting. Anytime someone is distracted, it is your fault. Make sure you sort that out. Okay. Make sure that you are anticipating everyone's needs so that you can get them food, water, a blanket, whatever is necessary, because their happiness is your responsibility. Oh, no, wait. Their comfort is your responsibility. Forget about happiness. Their comfort is your responsibility. Don't rock the boat if there's problems. Sometimes it's just easier to keep the peace. Suck it up. Just hold it in. I walked barefoot up the hill in the snow, when I was a kid. You can surely deal with this. You have to retain connections with your blood family no matter what, because they're your blood. Okay. This is literally just a handful of examples that I pulled out of my ass in less than a minute of brainstorming. Okay. It really, I just sat down and just dumped them all out. And when I look at that list, not a single one of those things is the way it is, right? It's just the way things used to be or the way people said things were. And we all just went along with it. Okay. Right. And for some of those items, when I realized how untrue they actually were, it made me wonder just who is making up these rules and why do I find them blindly as if this is just how it is, right? This realization made me so much more aware of how often I shoulded myself. And the more I did that, the more I noticed that every time I said I should do something, it was almost always related to something I didn't want to do anyway. It made me think that perhaps I needed to redefine the word should for myself. So here's my definition. All right, we're going to pause briefly because I need a drink and I want to see what's happening here. Uh-huh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. My dining room is now my kids' play area. My mom is still mad about it and the fact that I got rid of my guest bedroom for a storage room. You know what? If you need the storage, use it for storage. It's your house. It's your life. I'm so all about that. Oh my God, I'm wearing my Maleficent leggings today and saw Maleficent's actual costume from the movie. Oh my God, that's amazing. I love that. Okay. So this is a really great comment. Maybe more doctors should recognize the physical and mental health benefits of orgasms for women. Absolutely. So let me rephrase. Let me just come back to that and say, I think orgasms are great. Everybody should have them. And I do think the doctors should be talking to their should. No. It's important for doctors to talk to their patients about the benefit of good sexual health. There we go. All right. Love this so much. Okay. Fabulous. That is great. Okay, all right, we're going to come back now to, I'm almost actually done, which is good. I'm about half an hour in, so we're great. Okay, so we're talking about the definitions of should. Here's my definition. Should. The word people use when they want you to take an action, but they can't really explain why other than you're supposed to, or it's right, or it's the way it's done. It's used to create a feeling of obligation in the person it's being attached to, thus making it more likely that they will conform socially and do what you or society thinks is right for them. That's my definition of the word should. I have another definition for it, one that's more internal. The word people use when there's something that they've been told needs to happen, but it doesn't align with their desires or life view. They don't want to do it, but they're hoping that using the word should will inspire them into action. In both cases, it's using the emotion and feeling of shame to spur action. Now, I don't know about you, but I actually think that using shame to spur action sucks as a technique. It essentially means that I'm going to make you feel bad until you do what I want. Either you do it to yourself or someone else is going to do it to you, right? So like a lot of the things that we should ourselves over are things that people that we were told when we were younger we were supposed to do, but all the people who told us these things are either dead or gone, or we don't know where they are, or it's just like it's not even, they're not super relevant. A lot, I mean, obviously our parents might be, but a lot of the other areas that we got our guidance from, they're just not relevant in our lives anymore, but we've taken those lessons. So the people who gave us those ideas are gone, but we keep echoing their lessons in our head. So now they're just lessons echoed from years in the past of things that we think are the rules for society or the way things are supposed to be. So either you're doing it to you or someone else is doing it to you, or you're doing it to someone else, right? Now, so here's the thing, right? So I think we're all on board with the idea that we don't want to be shitting all over ourselves all the time, but what can we do about it, right? Because shitting statements, so they contribute to anxiety and depression. They put unreasonable demands and create enormous amounts of pressure that just doesn't need to be there. By making the one small change in your life related to the word should and your use of language, you can slowly reprogram yourself to feel more confident about your choices, happier with your life on a day-to-day basis, and deepen your relationship with others, right? So here are my steps it's 3 steps. Step 1 is to cultivate awareness, okay? Become aware of your shoulds, oughts, and musts. When you say, I ought to do this, I should do this, I must do this, and try to replace them with more encouraging thoughts. When you find yourself saying you should do something, give yourself a moment to reflect on the action itself. Do you actually want to do it? Does it align with your values and worldview? Can you see how this action will benefit you? Or are you trying to spur yourself into action using shame? really what you're trying to do in this first step is just pause briefly. So you're giving yourself time to reflect upon the action instead of simply just saying I should and running forward into whatever the next thing is. I should do this, I should do this, I should do this, or saying the words I should do this and then taking the action immediately after, right? So like give yourself a pause to reflect upon what you have just said, right? Then look for evidence. Like, why should this action be taken? Think about why anybody would want to do it. Where is the root of this desire coming from? Do you feel like you should do this because someone told you to do it in the past? Sometimes we say we should do something because we've heard it so often and everybody just parrots it back to us. You should do this, you should do this. We just do it. Like, for example, you should be on social media. Why? Is there something that you want there? Is there something that you need there? I know people who run successful businesses and they're not on social media, or they get nothing from social media. They get it all from somewhere else. I know other people who love social media and they spend all their time on it and they get their customers from there, but can't meet people in person. Yeah, for one person, being on social media is the appropriate action. For someone else, it's not. But the should is a judgment saying, well, you should be on social media. Ooh, if you're not, that's why you're failing. Kind of sucks to be you. That therein is the lesson, right? In that when somebody says that, because that's usually how it pops up. You're like, oh, I don't know what I should do in my business. Well, are you online? Do you have a website? Do you have an email list? Oh, well, you should have an email list, right? Oh, there's the should again, right? There's the shoulding. So the first is you're looking for evidence, right? You're trying to break that down into its component parts and really identify where it's actually coming from, right? And also where is the resistance coming from? And then third is replace the words. Replacing the words, so powerful. Okay, so powerful. Here's why. What if you replace the words with I could or I want to? For example, I could say I should go into the office, right? What if I change it to say I want to go into the office? Well, no, I don't. Do I really? Do I really want to go into the office? No, I don't, right? So when I say I should go into the office, what I'm really saying is I should go into the office, but I don't want to, so I'm not going to. But I'm going to feel really guilty about the fact that I haven't gone into the office, and guilt will be the price that I pay for not doing the thing that I should do, right? You don't have to pay the price of guilt for not doing something that you should do. Just don't do it and forget about it, right? What if I change it to I want to go to the office? Well, you realize in that moment, I don't want to do that thing, right? So it's really hard to judge yourself when you're like, I don't want to, right? Now it's a choice. Now, instead of it being like you should do something and because you're just so weak and victimized, you're unable to do it, you are basically acknowledging, I don't want to do this. And I'm going to take a powerful action not to do something that I don't want to do, right? So now you've taken something that it was first as an indication of your weakness and inability to conform and turned it into your superpower and your strength, right? So my next step, so the really good indicator is if you want to do it in the first place. So the next thing is why should I, right? Why should I do this? So here's some other things, right? Instead of saying I should eat healthy, right? My goal is to eat healthy as much as possible, right? That's something that is a true statement the moment you make it. You know what that goal is. You're not judging yourself. You just stated your goal. I want to go live for my podcast. That's totally true. There was a long time where I was like, I should go live to my podcast. And you know what? Every time I thought that, I didn't go live because I felt like, oh, such an obligation. But today was totally different because today I wanted to go live for my podcast. I have been looking forward to going live for my podcast. Something has changed. I no longer feel like this is an obligation for something that I need to do to grow my business so people will pay me money. I am now doing this because I want to share ideas that will make people's lives better, that will help people enjoy life more, that will create joy and happiness, right? So for me, that excites me and ignites me and makes me want to go live, right? Not I should go live so that I can find more people. That's very different in terms of my perspective in that moment and how I feel. I should be on time for an appointment. I can be on time for that appointment, right? Empowering language, right? Language that makes you feel like you're a badass. That is really important because now you are starting yourself off from a position of strength rather than starting yourself off from a position of weakness, right? I don't need to use the word should. I shouldn't use the word should, right? No, that's not good. I don't need to use the word should. I can replace it. I started this podcast because I am so over people telling other people how to behave, act, feel, or show up. I'm tired of the stories that tell us that we need to be ashamed of our choices if they don't match up to cultural or societal expectations and change how we present ourselves to fit the way that things are supposed to be. We all get this one life, and I believe we're here to feel and share joy with others. I want people to wake up in love with their lives, and I believe that the best way to do that is to release ourselves of shame and experience life to the fullest. And that isn't possible if we're constantly worried about not being enough or letting someone down. based on an arbitrary, let's try that again. I'm gonna try this one again. I started this podcast because I'm so over people telling other people how to behave, act, feel, or show up. I'm tired of the stories that tell us that we need to be ashamed of our choices if they don't match up to cultural or societal expectations, and change how we present ourselves to fit the way things are supposed to be. We all get this one life, and I believe that we are here to feel and share joys with others. I want people to wake up in love with their lives, and I believe that the best way to do that is to release ourselves of shame and experience life to the fullest. And that isn't possible if we're constantly worried about not being enough or letting someone down based on an arbitrary set of rules that someone made up 100 years ago. I've always felt this. I have felt this for a long time. And when I was younger, it came out as a bit petulant and bratty because I didn't really understand the infrastructure that said you can't wear jeans to work. But my studies in the last 5 years taught me that it's the infrastructure itself that needs to be challenged. That it's not those of us who want to do things differently that are the problem. Whether you want to do things the same or you want to do things differently, it's all fine. Neither one is a problem. And I've truly made it my life's mission to shed the shame. Whether it's the shame of being neurodivergent, which was shameful back in the 80s, people would make so much fun of you, the shame of not being brown enough or white enough, the shame of talking like a teenager at 46 with my dudes in a briefs, the shame of gender or of being trans, which some people still think is shameful, right? I don't think it's shameful, but people will make you feel that way, right? And I'm done with it. I am so done with people telling me what I should or should not be ashamed of, embarrassed about, or how I should and should not show up. No one else has to live my life but me, right? I'm over all of it, not just for me, but for you as well. I am not okay with the status quo of conformity. I used to think that if I did everything the way that was all checked off my list, right, that I would be happy and I would feel like I was enough. And I would finally be able to just take a breath and be like, oh my God, I can stop moving. I can stop working. I can stop doing. I can stop trying to prove myself. But the deck was stacked, and you will never be enough for some people. It is so important to know that for some people, you will never be enough, no matter how many boxes you check off. And there will always be someone out there who is just ready to judge you, even if you've done everything right. With that knowledge, it just made more sense to do something that I knew was right for me, right? That I knew that I could win at, which is being me. I can win at being me. I can be right at being me because I know what that is, right? I understand that. And I knew I would be enough if I was the one deciding the benchmarks. And that's what all of my podcasts are about. They're about sharing different ways to look at benchmarks and frameworks so that you can decide for yourself what you want to do, what you can do, what you will do. And you can leave your shoulds in a box to the left that someone can take to the trash. To the left, everything you own in a box to the left. That is totally out of key. What is it? What is it after that? She goes, oh my God, that's such a good song, but I can't remember it. Oh, I used to listen to it all the time. Okay, moving on. Oh, that's the end. Thank you so much for joining me on the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast today and seizing another opportunity to create joy in your life. If this resonated with you and you are looking for more concrete ways to support to help you shed the shame, I want to invite you over to my Patreon. You can go to manessa.com to learn more about it, to join a community of people who are designing and crafting a life of joy that works for them. I hope to see you there. That last sentence, I realized at the end I wrote it all wrong. It's like not even grammatically correct. I'm like, oh, here's what it was. Who are designing and crafting a life of joy that works for them to keep your own work going. I think what I was trying to say is I want to invite you over to the community. Join us. You'll join a group of people who are designing and crafting a life of joy that works for them. And you can keep your own work going in that community. I hope to see you there. Join me at manessa.com. Look at that. I don't know what this is. All right. What do we got, people? We did it. Our first live in so long. Okay. All right. I've been saying that for years. Like, why do people want to sit in 2 hours of traffic both ways to work when they can do it on their computer and the businesses wouldn't have to lease such a huge building? Absolutely. And part of the challenge that exists in the world is that for a very long time here, for a very long time, these ideas and of like, for example, working from, oh, wow, here, this is, there you go. Do that. Okay. For a really long time, this idea that you couldn't work from home came from the belief that people were lazy, they were unproductive, that inherently if you gave workers that level of freedom that they wouldn't get any work done. And the truth of the matter is that there are some people who are not, they're not disciplined enough to be able to work from home. There are some people who need the social aspect of the workplace. Like it's mentally healthy for them. And so I definitely can see how for some people the opposite is true. They would rather go into the office. But for those people, they're not going to be saying I should go into work, right? They're going to be like, I want to go into work because I want to see my friends, or I want to go into work for whatever reason. And that's sort of really the key here. Is it's not that like one way is better than the other. So like wearing horns is no better than or worse than not wearing horns. The real lesson is about like we should be free to make our own choices without fear of judgment or rejection. And the hard part is that we as human beings tend to immediately, like when we meet people, we tend to like put ourselves on a, oh, I'm better or worse than them in some way or another. It's just an automatic thing. Everybody's like creating these ladders in their brain, which is something that I think you have to actively work to deprogram yourself from. But for many of us, this is just the way it is, right? And it's like, and I feel like Gen Z was one of the, like, our generation of Gen X, sorry, is one of the first generations to like get the idea of doing this. But I think that because of the generation that was our managers, and because some of us are on the cusp, I think it really took the millennials and the Gen Zers to really push the envelope there. And then of course COVID, I don't think it could have happened without COVID. Obviously COVID was like a big catalyst to making work from home possible. But what it really illustrates is that anything is possible under the right set of circumstances, right? So anytime somebody's like, oh, it's absolutely impossible, we can't do this, the question then becomes, all right, what are the set of circumstances under which this becomes possible? Because the one thing that everybody, if you had asked anyone 4 years ago, they would have literally laughed in your face and been like, no fucking way is everybody going to work from home, or are you, or even one person, even somebody who had proven themselves would be allowed to work from home, because it's just not done. You come into the office to work. That's how it is, right? So important, so important. Okay, next one is, I've been saying that for you. Oh no, wait, that's not the one. Sorry. There we go. I don't think that I realize that I've been shooting in myself. Bleh, bleh. I don't think I've realized that I have been shitting all over myself in my head. I don't say them out loud, but changing the internal monologue needs to happen too. Absolutely. So that's the key there. It's actually super important. Your internal monologue is more important than the shoulds that other people are saying. So today I talked a lot about other people saying, other people saying, other people saying, but the truth of the matter is this: we are far past the other people saying part of the conversation for many of us. For many of us, we're already adults, which means that the people that I'm talking about who said what you should or shouldn't do, these people are long gone. Like, there's nobody walking up to you right now saying you should dress more professionally, right? And if there is, then that's a different conversation. But for most of us, it's a story. These are the stories that we were told when we were younger. We internalized them. It became, this is just how things are. And now as adults, nobody is around telling us these things, but we tell them to ourselves, right? So when I was worried about the maleficent horns, that was on my own internal monologue. Not a single person had said a single word to me. Nobody had ever made me feel like they would reject me. Like, it was all happening in here, and it was happening in here as a result of all of the programming and conditioning that I'd had from before as I was growing up. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, is actually that I'm not vilifying other people. We all do this, and we all do it to ourselves. I think the other thing that's important is recognizing that the language, right, that we use in our brains is just as important as the language that other people say to us, right? So like, we've carried on the torch. So the exercise of being more aware that you're doing it is step one, because that will sort of get you noticing, like, already you've noticed how much you should on yourself, right? So that's also super important, is just recognizing that you can, once you do your own internal work on this, your confidence will grow to where even if someone outside tells you, like, now someone could tell me that I should do something, and I will take it in the spirit in which it was given, right? So if somebody's like, says, you shouldn't have done that, right? Well, I'm going to take it in the spirit in which it was given. I'll be like, yeah, I should, right? I'm going to throw it right back at you. But if it's somebody who says, listen, I don't think you should have blue hair anymore. I don't think it's professional, right? And I'm worried about your career. Well, I understand what you're saying. I do. I get it. I get it that I'm making my life harder by having a blue mohawk. I absolutely get having hand tattoos makes it harder for me to get a job. Absolutely. I totally get it. But when I did this, it wasn't done in a vacuum, right? I did it with the knowledge that would be the price that I would pay. And when I did it, I had a concrete decision that I had made, that I was, this was the point where I had realized that I was never going to let anybody shit on me again. That's it. No more. I'm done with the shame. I'm done with feeling bad about things that I don't need to feel bad about, right? Like, I know what my moral code is. I know, like, for example, I don't lie. right? Honesty. I just don't lie. If I lied, I would say I should not have lied. Why? Because I freaking lied to somebody. That is so wrong, right? That's my own thing. That's my moral code. So I would never do that. I just don't lie, right? That's doesn't not having shoulds or guilt doesn't in the things doesn't make you a bad person. I still have the guilt if I do something that is wrong. The only difference is that I'm deciding what's wrong, right? And a lot of things I may agree on. For example, murder is wrong, right? So I'm not going to murder anybody. And society says that murder is wrong. So I'm not going to murder anybody. I think it's wrong. Society says it's wrong. You shouldn't murder people. Totally get that. I can get on board with that. Okay, we can all get on board with that. But there are other things that like are not as universal that were created in response to a bunch of societal pressures that then once done over time became the way things were. And then by the time you get to a generation below, right, so like now your kids and grandkids, at that point it's gospel, right? At that point this is just the way it is, and you're not going to do it any other way because we've done this for generations, right? So many years of nonsense programming. I was telling my daughter how not too long ago tattoos and colored hair disqualified you from so many jobs. Absolutely. And I think that that's what's happening now, is that with everybody's changing now. I think COVID really like was life changing for everybody. But I also think that the generation that's coming up now, so I don't know how old your kid is, but they're all like, I know your kid is old enough to be one of the crew, right? One of the crew that is going to change the world. They're all the under teenagers, like all the teenagers now and like early 20s. They're the ones that are like, they don't put up with shit from anybody, right? And I love that because I think they were raised by my generation. I don't have kids who they were also done with all the shitting. And so they're trying to raise their kids without the baggage that they grew up with, which is why I think that when I see the younger kids doing things now, like younger kids, look at me being so old. When I see young 30 somethings or 20 somethings sort of standing up for themselves and advocating for themselves, they inspire me. I am inspired by them. And then I take what they teach me and then I bring it back here and share here. So like a lot of the things that I learn from both sides of the equation. I'm learning from people who have been doing this for years, who are much older than me, who have years of more experience, but I'm also learning how to find joy from the younger generation who has less years of experience, but they also have less baggage, right? They have a lot less baggage. And so they're less concerned about the things that they should or shouldn't be doing and are more concerned about impact or how they want to show up in the world, or am I a good person? Like they're really focusing on things that I think are important, right? Okay, your kids are going to kick ass. All y'all are going to kick ass. Seriously. Okay, guys, this was fab. I am so happy to see all of you who came to join me today at the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself live re-inauguration here on November 9th. The way that we're doing this now is I'm going to go live every week, but we're going to have, and then the version of the podcast that gets published on Apple and Google will probably be about 2 weeks later. So the live version gets you like almost like the early version. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with my Patreon because that's going to be a thing, but I'm probably going to be changing around what the benefits are just as I workshop how I want to run my business, how I want to run my life. This is how, when you decide you're going to stop shitting all over yourself, I really, over the last several years, I've slowed down enormously, and it's giving me the opportunity to, on a very granular level, pick and choose the things that I want to do in my life and how I want to do them so that I can live the optimal, joyous life and help others do the same, right? And I'm still figuring that out as I go, but there's no right or wrong way. There's just my way, the way that I'm doing it. And someone else may do it a different way. And the same thing is true for your business and your life. So that's what I want to leave you with today, is that nobody gets to judge you for your decisions. Your decisions are yours. Your life is yours. And as long as you're happy and not hurting anybody, that's where joy comes from. Joy comes from being able to express yourself fully and authentically without judgment or without care of judgment from yourself. So have a wonderful, wonderful day. Go enjoy, live in joy, live in love. And I will see you guys next week, 12 o'clock noon. I'm going to have something very special for you after our next podcast. So I will see you guys then. Bye-bye.